Okay, so American Management Services, in business 34 years. I'm Lou Mosca, Chief Operating Officer, and my favorite thing in the world, my only hobby in the universe, is going to restaurants, which, as you might imagine, in these last couple of weeks, month or so, it's been kind of not existent, right? And in case you didn't know, with all these restaurants doing that take-home stuff, they can't survive on take-home, folks. There's just no way they're going to cover their overhead and survive on take-home. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about American Management. 34 years in business. We were chosen by the United States Conference of Mayors to be their exclusive partner, their exclusive consulting firm working with independent business owners throughout the continental United States. Why did they choose us? Because we are so good, it's painful. We are so good, it is painful. We have gotten every one of our clients through this COVID-19 virus. Not some, not a few, not most. Every damn one of them we've gotten through this virus with a dedicated plan. So this series, today's webinar, is going to be focused on restaurants. And I'm going to tell you, you will get great value out of this. So I'm Lou Mosca, Chief Operating Officer of American Management. Been here for 21 years doing this. This is as dynamic, aggressive, gut-wrenching time as I've ever been involved in at American Management. How you doing, Mike?
Doing well. And I'm Mike Lockey. I'm the Director of Management Services for American Management. I work with our clients. I work with our consulting staff to produce great results. And we get a fair amount of restaurants in normal times.
Goes in spurts, you know?
It does. It comes and goes a little bit. But we do probably just as many restaurants as we do any other type of industry out there. And I guess my first thought going into this is obviously restaurants have been significantly impacted. Many are shuttered. A lot of them are doing roadside, so the competition's great. I think their customers probably have dwindled to a degree because you probably have many that are out of work. They're conserving cash. So a lot of people are probably cooking at home. They have time to cook at home and that type of thing. So, all of these are negatives to that industry. But I think the place to start here is kind of how we would normally treat a restaurant and how we look at a restaurant going in, and then taking that and converting it over to this new day and age of COVID. So, but let's take a step back. Let me ask you a question.
Boy, again with the questions.
I know, I like it. You always ask me questions, so this is my one opportunity to ask you some questions. How do we normally look at a restaurant? And let's start with the back end of the restaurant. What's philosophically kind of how we view it?
So philosophically, the back end of a restaurant is like a manufacturing environment, right? Raw material comes in, whether that's chicken or vacuum packed beef or vegetables or produce, or someone went to a market and bought more produce, or they went to a baker and breads come in. But we look at the back of a restaurant like a manufacturing environment. Something comes in, a raw material.
Yep.
Right? Something gets done to it, a process. It's cooked, it's steamed, it's baked, it's broiled. Something gets done to it, a process. Then it gets plated, sort of like packaging, right? You've built something in your manufacturing environment. It went from a raw material to a product to a packaging so you can ship it, and right? And then our shipment phase is actually it's plated. The head chef eyeballs the plate, and some runner takes it out to a table. So the back of a restaurant is sort of like a manufacturing environment. Something comes in, something happens to it, and a finished product goes out.
So let me piggyback off that a little bit. So generally, if I was walking into a manufacturer, and I'd look at several things. Certainly the inventory, and let's be honest, the restaurant's going to have inventory, except their inventory is going to have a very, very finite shelf life.
That depends. Paper products have, but actually perishables is a very short.
Absolutely. Whereas if I was walking into somebody that manufactured hard products or metal goods or something along those lines, they could in theory keep their stuff on the shelves forever, and it's always usable. Restaurants don't have that luxury. So one thing that I think is very important is how you turn your inventory. You can't just stock up on all these perishable items, have them spoil and go rotten, because then now your spoilage percentage is going up, and that's no different than any other manufacturer. We look at waste percentage. I buy $1 of material. How much of that material cost actually goes into the end product that is usable and good and sellable to the client? So waste factors, spoilage, or shrinkage even. You know, it's a restaurant. People can always use food. We've done a couple restaurant clients where we know had hard evidence that people were taking food out and taking it home.
No.
Imagine that.
Come on.
Imagine that. So paying attention to your spoilage, waste, and shrink factors is very key in this industry.
Sure.
You mentioned earlier, it's a process. So you take your raw materials, you're converting it into a finished good. And what happens before it gets put up on the pass and out the door? The head chef's going to eyeball that, right? And what is he really doing at that point? Testing for quality, right? Wants to make sure that the food is prepped the right way. It's to customer satisfaction,
Sure.
to his satisfaction
Sure.
or her satisfaction. The fancier term for that is quality control.
Sure.
You can't send food out the door and it be a poor quality, because what's going to happen is going to come right back to the kitchen. So your quality percentage has to be measured in all
Sure.
that. And all of this kind of leads to a bigger picture of cost control. Do we have the right amount of product in inventory? Are we converting it properly from a quality perspective? And all of that goes into, am I ultimately controlling my cost of what's coming in my door, going through my kitchen, and then ultimately out the
Sure.
front end? Is there anything else I missed in there?
You know, I think most restaurateurs understand how their restaurant is supposed to work.
Right.
I think what they're all going to be watching us for is what can we do now.
Sure.
If I'm going to open the doors tomorrow, May 2nd, May 4th, May 10th, what steps can we take now to make a difference and try to recover some money, provided they have the money to reopen?
Okay. So let's talk about that. So obviously the industry is going to look different. It's just, even if they flipped the switch today and said everything can open, how you operate today is going to be totally different. I think the first thing that has to be focused is the customer perception. Again, I mentioned earlier, me personally, I would certainly entertain going in there. I'm tired of being in my house and seeing it. I'd love to get out somewhere. But I'm not going to do that at the expense of my health and the safety and welfare of me and my family. Just no differently than a restaurant shouldn't open if they are concerned about their health and the health of their people and their ability to run a safe environment. So I think that's got to be the first thing, is what is the customer perceiving in all this? And the first thing that pops in my mind when I think of customer perception is, what are we doing here? We're more than 6 foot apart. Why? Because that's the safe social distancing requirement that's been put forth. So I think the first thing that a customer is going to ask is, am I going to be sitting 2 feet away from somebody that could potentially be sick or carrying a virus or doing anything like that? I think that's the first thing.
And I think a restaurant owner should lay out their safety and spacing parameters on their website and in the window of their restaurant.
Yeah.
I think that any passerby should see it. It should be black and white. And what that means is if your restaurant had the capacity for 50, well, for the next 30, 60, 90 days, it might be 20. But would you rather have 20 or 0?
Right.
All right? And do you want anything traced back to you that you didn't take the proper precautions? That's catastrophic, right? So I'd be pushing that out on social media. I would put it on my website, and I would have a big sign made for right in my front window.
Yeah. So going back to the customer perception piece of it, so the first thing, spacing. So the recommendation is to set and align your floor so that you have the proper minimum 6 foot. And my guess is you probably are going to have to go more than that. You
I
probably
would
have to
think
do
more
10,
than that.
because you're going to have people walking through.
Well, the
it
guys
and all
that are operating with tables, they're not going to have a problem.
Right.
Guys that have booths that are secured, they got a problem.
Right. They're going to have to shut.
That's construction.
Shutter. Right. They're going to have to shutter. They'll probably have to shutter booths.
They might.
Along the way. Next thing from a customer perspective in my mind is not just the safe spacing, but how do I know that the dishes and the utensils and the people are going to be handling those things. How do I know the tables and the chairs and the booths and all that are safe and clean? So I think above and beyond just the publishing the safety standards or the spacing standards, you're going to have to really go into detail as to how are we protecting you from a cleanliness standpoint. Here's what our expectations are for our staff. Here's how we're ensuring that anything that you're using utensil-wise is been through a process.
I know you're not going to want to hear this, but I had a root canal about 2 months ago. And I remember it was right before this thing really kicked off. And I remember the surgeon changing his gloves about 6 times throughout the course of the process. And I think that sort of gives the consumer confidence that whoever is handling stuff is taking precautions. So mount glove packs around your restaurant, and your staff needs to be trained how to be taking them, throwing them away, changing them, taking them, throwing them away, changing
Absolutely.
them. Right?
Let's not make this all negative, because obviously we're all going to be concerned with spacing and safety and cleanliness. What about just the customers wanting excitement to get out of the house?
Yep.
Because that's going to be part of it as
Yep.
well. How could restaurants maybe play off of that excitement?
Well, I think that the excitement is there. The pent-up desire is there. But I think that you should be, once again, shouting out on social media who you are, what you're doing. Get a little entertainment in there if you want. But if you get some entertainment in there, get a couple of pieces of plexiglass and surround the entertainer with a little bit of plexiglass. All right. I actually think you should try to make this a little bit fun.
Yeah.
So I have a thought for you, which I've never shared with you,
Sure.
okay? Believe it or not. So I think every restaurant should go to a mask manufacturer, Jonathan's family, all right, and have the masks made for your employees that have your name and your logo on it, your restaurant name, picture, and logo on it. And every guest that comes in should get one in a package, in a sleeve, okay? And, you know, you can't eat with a mask on, but you could keep the mask on for 80% of the time, because 80% of the time you're in a restaurant, you're not eating.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So I would do that. I might consider making gloves, having gloves made with my logo on them. Try to make this so that we're safe, but we're going to have a little bit of fun. That's
Good.
what I would try
Good.
and do.
And now the probably what's going to end up being the big elephant in the room. Again, a lot of people out of work, a lot of people maybe on unemployment. What about the cost of the meal? Because obviously you're opening up because you want to save your business, but the reality is that your customers may not have the disposable income that they had before to afford a good meal. Any recommendations there?
Yeah. Ready?
Yep.
Raise your price.
And why do you say that?
Because I think if people are going to come out to a restaurant, I don't know if they're going to worry about whether it's $15 or $16. I actually suggested to someone recently that if you don't want to raise your price, it's okay. Tell everybody that you're applying for the next 3 months a COVID-19 surcharge to try to help you recover. I think people will understand it. I mean, do I think it should be $400? No. But if your average ticket in your restaurant is $30, you're going to apply a $3 COVID-19 surcharge. Is this going to make a difference to anybody? All right. Now, if your average ticket's $300, it's a different story.
Yeah.
It's a different story. But since most restaurants do $500,000 to $1.5 million, you know, they do business with their local community. Their local community understands how damaged they've been. Play on it. Take advantage of it. Put a COVID-19 surcharge and explain that that's to try and get our people back to work. How about a human tug, an emotional tug? Do that with giving each person a mask that has your name of your restaurant on it and your picture on it, so you spend $7 a mask instead of $1.50 a mask. Do some stuff that makes your folks want to come to you. So me personally, I've been picking up food at 2 restaurants every week, every Wednesday and every Friday night, like clockwork, to try to support them.
Yep.
Okay? And at both of these restaurants, they come out with the masks and the gloves, and I'm not going into the building. One of them comes out, and after I sign the credit card, before I touch anything, I give him back the pen. He sprays my hand with a disinfectant, and I wash my hands right on the spot. Right on the spot. So people have gotten smarter at this. But my goal has been to support 2 of my favorite places.
Yep.
If you have that pent-up desire to get the heck back out there, your customers, I have to believe, if they love you, if they've been with you for a long time, if they love you, they're going to understand the world of hurt you've been in and that you didn't get a government bailout. Put a COVID-19 surcharge on it. I think you got bigger problems than that.
Yeah, I agree. Let's talk a little bit. Let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about maybe what you should be training your staff on. Obviously, you mentioned masks and things, but what about things like the control environment through this? What about having people coming in, because you don't want people congregating in a confined area while they're waiting for a table? You know, maybe what are some ideas that you think could help handle those things?
I think that all your employees need to be tested before they come in.
Absolutely.
Every day. They need to, some type of rigid testing. So every day you should be putting on your website again and in your window again that all your employees were tested 30 minutes before their shift started that day, all of them. Okay. As far as your customers are concerned, I have a draconian thought. I've thought about this for a while. I think the restaurants in a community should all get together. If there's 20 restaurants in the same street, I think all 20 should get together and rotate what patrons can come in what day alphabetically based on your last name, so that you're getting traffic, but you reduce the congregation of traffic. So like the restaurant or bar I like to hang out on Saturday nights, I don't know when I'm going to go back there. It bothers me. I miss it, but I don't know when I'm going to go back there because everybody's on top of each other like elephants, which is what I like normally, but not today, right? So I actually think that you need to show your customers that your staff is safe. Okay. And now you can police how many people come in, even if that means you have to limit them to 10 minute time, or set up schedules. We seat at 6, we seat at 8, we seat at 10. That's it.
That was one of the notes I went down and I used the term take reservations, but I think more of a scheduled seating process, because we didn't really talk about the front end under normal times, but one of the keys there is obviously how many tables you can turn, and I think businesses are going to have to do a couple things. I think they're going to have to be very stringent on, your time slot is from here to here, here to here, because if you're cutting, say, half of your tables out, that just puts more pressure on your overhead allocation. Your rent's not changing, right? Now, hopefully you've watched some of these other episodes and you've handled that issue, but you still are going to have to absorb this overhead with fewer tables. So I think, the play's kind of got to be a little bit of a volume play, right? You got to have 3-4 sittings where you might otherwise only have a couple sittings a night. So if you can schedule that out and then offer that up to your customers, 6, 7, 8, or whatever.
So let's say you do 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 9 o'clock.
Yeah, something
and
like that.
Let's say you normally had 50 seats that you turn twice a night.
Yeah.
Now you're going to have 20 seats that you turn 3 times a night.
Right.
Okay, so you're going to do 60 seats versus what would have been 100 seats.
Yeah.
Okay, so now what I would suggest you do is people have to sign in online and choose their menu items in advance.
Right.
And pay it in advance.
Yeah.
All right, and they can leave a gratuity, not leave a gratuity, or whatever their choice is. And I know people like to leave a gratuity at the end. We're in strange times now. So if there's a way so there is no handling of money or credit cards in advance, if you can get half your folks to do that, do it.
Yeah.
All right, now if they change if Mike's coming in at 5 o'clock and he's ordered 1, 2, 3, 4, well, you need to be ready to be plating Mike or serving Mike at 5:10, 5:15, because you knew what it was and you've been paid for it.
Yeah.
No harm, no foul if he shows up or doesn't show up.
Yeah.
Now, and then right on the site, you have to put, you're going to add your COVID-19 surcharge and explain what it is. And it's only for 90 days to help your employees. No one's going to get upset over that.
Yeah. I also think, and you kind of pinged off this a little bit, but I think you have to continue to offer the limited menu for varying reasons.
Totally.
One, I think with your customers coming in, and I totally believe this. I think they're actually going to have a higher quality standard coming in. I've been cooking at home. I've been making this. If I'm going to go give somebody my limited hard-earned dollars that I have, I'm going to expect a good night out. So I think a limited menu is going to allow you to do a couple things. One, certainly get proficient on that. Like I said, you can schedule that out. If I know that you're coming and this is what you ordered, now I'm not trying to take an order and process it quickly. Now I've got time to process those orders and every other order that's coming in. And if I have a limited menu, I'm not buying tons of different inventory items that I got to worry about whether or not I'm turning those or not. I'm turning this or I'm turning this, and then you can kind of get better at the quantities that you need for all those sittings.
And when everyone's seated, you might want to give them like a little plate of some olives or something, or cheese or something.
Yeah, just right
on
off,
the house,
right,
on the
exactly,
house, so
right
they
on
got
that.
something the minute they sit.
Right. And then of course that'll allow you to save the time to get the tables turned quicker. So, and then I think that allows the kitchen staff to really perfect the recipes, perfect what they're giving. So that speaks to the quality side of this. And then of course it's pre-priced. So if you know that, so now your task is how do I fill this 5 o'clock slot? How do I fill this 7 o'clock slot? How do I fill this 9 o'clock slot? And then you go from there.
So I have a couple other things.
Sure.
When I said to you I think people should raise their prices, I meant it. Okay, but I think you need to raise your prices, whether it's through a COVID-19 surcharge or with some explanation that this is temporary to try to help offset the last 90 days. And we know how much this has been difficult for people. We get it, but we need your help. I think there needs to be an emotional tug. I think that most owners are going to have a bigger problem. That bigger problem is how to actually get supplies to open.
Yeah.
Okay? So I think most of them are going to be stuck from a liquidity perspective on how are they going to get supplies to open. And I think they need to be talking 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago with their food purveyors, their suppliers, their Cisco's, their U.S. Food Service, their Halperns, their whoever else they're using, right? And they need to be telling them, I need you to extend me a line of credit of X, $5,000. And I'm going to pay back that line of credit over 12 months. Then beyond that $5,000, whatever my normal terms with you were, I'll live with that. But I need some help bankrolling getting this started at no interest. It's in the supplier's best interest to do it. It's in your best interest, because I'm afraid too many of these restaurants will not have the capital to go out and spend $2,000, $3,000 supplying their kitchen with what they need.
Yeah.
So I think you can't be shy. You got to have a plan. Go to your vendors. Let them be your banker.
I think that concept has to extend not just to your suppliers. I think it's got to extend to how you view your kitchen. I think it's got to extend to your customers as well. You can't just wait for the light switch to come on, everybody's opened up to say, hey, grand reopening. I think you got to shout that out weeks in advance. And what you should be thinking about now is communicating with all of these people, having your plan for cleaning. I think this is a great opportunity to go in there and do a total complete scrub down of your kitchen.
You mean like we did?
Exactly.
So we brought in a professional service
Yep.
to sanitize the entire building
Yep.
and certify it.
Yep.
And what we want to show our employees is that we took whatever steps we needed to at least open the doors, and then we're in the process of retaining medical staff to greet all of our employees for the first 30 days and take their temperatures to certify they're okay before they come in the building.
Yep.
Restaurants have to do similar,
Yep.
and they need to be shouting it out on social media 2 weeks in advance of opening.
Absolutely.
And if they're a smart restaurateur, even if they did $500,000 a year and they have the contact information and emails of their customers, they need to be communicating with them.
Yeah.
Because they need them back.
I also think it's a good time to start addressing your faulty equipment. I mean, some of these small restaurants, they probably have old stoves and ovens and burners aren't working properly and this and that. I think it's a good opportunity to go and reassess how your layout is, how things are working, and make those repairs as necessary.
I think vendors are willing to work with you if they believe you're going to be there.
Right.
They understand. They want to keep their people working too. I'll give you my last tidbit. I think that you should be publishing your opening. You should be shouting out what you're going to do to protect your customers, what you're going to do to protect your staff. You should tell them what your cleanliness requirements
Absolutely.
and what you're going to do. I've always been amazed the few times I've walked through a McDonald's kitchen, how immaculate those floors are. How it's just mind-boggling to me in peak times, just immaculate to me. But I think there should be simple touches. Mr. Owner, send a thank you note. Send a thank you note. Mike, it was good to see you. I hope your family's okay. Thank you for coming in. Whether Mike's picking up once a week or once a month or going to be the first one through the door when you open, send a thank you note. Stay in touch with the people that support you.
Yeah.
I think there are steps you can take. Let your vendors or your purveyors be your banker. Communicate on social media. Space your restaurant differently. Add a COVID-19 surcharge and tell people out of the gate why you're doing it. It's temporary for 90 days, and you thank people for understanding. Shrink your menu. Make sure it's limited, simple. Try to get people to order in advance. Get paid in advance. Right, there are so many different things you can do, but as the owner, you can't send out enough thank you notes. Whether it's an email or a card, you can't send out enough.
Very good. Very good. Cool. All right.
I can't wait to get back.
Me either.
Okay, very
Me either.
good. Listen, Mr. Restaurant Owner, good luck. Have fun. It's a tough time. If you need some help, feel free to call. And we have our consultants standing by if you'd like to talk to them, if you'd like to purchase an hour of their time. We're actually here to help you, okay? American Management Services, 34 years in business, saving owners' lives every day. Have at it.